Police fired tear gas at the anti-government protesters in Cairo on a day when some protesters are angered by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's decision to hand over 2 islands to Saudi Arabia at these streets. Now, traffic was brought to a standstill as protesters and police played cat and mouse in the heart of the capital. The protest started off peacefully on Friday morning with people carrying placards. At least 50 protesters were arrested after the protest turned chaotic. The protesters are angered by a government announcement that it signed over the uninhabited Red Sea islands of Tiran and Sanafir to Saudi Arabia during a state visit by the Saudi Monarch last week. Saudi and Egyptian officials said the islands belonged to the kingdom and were only under Egyptian control because Saudi Arabia had asked Cairo in 1950 to protect them. Well, let's get more details and analysis on this story from CCTV's Adel Mahroui, who now joins us live from Cairo. Adel, have the protests died out? What's the situation like now?
Well, yes, they have died out yesterday night after police forces managed to disperse all of the gatherings. The main one was in downtown Cairo that we've just seen the footage of. Luckily, the process itself of the tear gas and evacuation of the streets of downtown happened without any official report of injuries from either side. There have been, the arrest numbers have actually increased to over 200. Most of them have been released late Friday and earlier today. There are still, however, about 2 dozens of protesters who are still under arrest and might face charges. It's still not clear exactly what is the prosecution, what the charges the prosecution will charge them with.
So, Adel, what are the main grievances of these protesters, and do their sentiments enjoy wide public support?
Well, basically, there were 2 types of protesters, mainly those who came to object to handing over the 2 islands to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but all of them shared something which is sort of a feeling, the need to show a sign of opposition against the government actions and the president in general. They have been saying that they were never given the chance to protest before, and this was the first time they managed to go and take the streets in bigger numbers than the usual. This is considered to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, protest that has taken place since President al-Sisi came to power, and the protest lasted for several hours. It hasn't happened in a very long time here in Egypt. As for public support, as anything in Egypt, there are 2 opinions about it. There's a general sense of satisfaction and support from many youth powers who wanted to see the freedom of protesting rights given, the freedom of speech right given. They sort of support such a move. But the elderly and other groups in Egypt, social groups in Egypt, they see that this is another unnecessary wave of protest that the country can do without.
Right. So what's the government saying, Adel, about this raging controversy over these 2 islands?
Well, the government is insisting that, at least so far, that the 2 islands belong to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The president and the government or the prime ministry both explained that these islands belong to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia after the establishment of Israel in 1948. By 1950, there were concerns that Israel would expand its territories in the region, which has happened. At that time, Saudi Arabia decided to give the island to Egypt to protect them, not as sort of a transferring the property of the 2 islands to Egypt, which Egypt has taken. And since then, many have been considering the islands. This is according to the government, of course. Many Egyptians have considered it part of the Egyptian land, and this is why there is controversy today, because most Egyptians have never heard about such an issue before. They always thought that the 2 islands belonged to the Egyptian government. But what happened between President al-Sisi and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, King Salman, when he was visiting, is just an initial agreement. It's an agreement that was signed between both of them, but technically and legally, this issue must be given to the parliament, and the Egyptian parliament will have the final say as the representative of the Egyptian public on whether this decision can proceed or not.
All right, Adel Mahroui joining us live there in Cairo. Many thanks, Adel.